If you or someone you know is approved for disability and is waiting for their Medicare benefits to kick in, they are in what we call the coverage gap. This conversation that you're about to listen to covers 7 different ways that you can close the gap and get treatment until your Medicare kicks in. Enjoy the conversation. If there's somebody else you know that would benefit from this, we would appreciate it if you would pass the video on. Thanks. The question is, what do people do while they're waiting for Medicare to kick in? Um, and and for Medicare to kick in again, it's 24 months from when somebody's disability starts, when the disability payment starts, which is
Or
the
is it,
easiest way to look at it. Not 24 months from when you were approved.
that's 24 months from when Social Security deemed you disabled.
Right. So I'll go back to the prior example that I
Yeah.
used. We had a January of 2019. As somebody stopped work and they applied in May, but they were found disabled in January 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 24 months from their what they call their entitlement date,
Mm-hmm.
which would be, hang on now, it would be 6 months from that, or 5 months from that January of 2019, because there's a 5-month elimination
Mm-hmm.
period. So that would be
Brian, is that on your
June.
award letter? When you
Yeah,
receive an award letter, it does tell you that your disability, the day they deemed you disabled is blah, blah, blah.
it's
Okay.
it's the line that says entitled in it. So like in the
Oh,
example that I just used, so January, I'm doing a little math, January, February, March, April, May. So in May of 2019 would be the entitled date, which is the 5-month elimination period.
mm-hmm.
So the Medicare would be 24 months from that date. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
now what do people do? There's a few options that I put up here. Maybe you folks know of other creative ideas, but there's not a lot of good options, really.
Mm-hmm.
Or
No,
maybe
Well,
it's
there's,
sad.
this lady's in Alabama, and it's a horrible state to try to find insurance because they didn't do the Medicaid expansion. But she's saying, so in order for her to apply for the Affordable Care Act, they're saying that she doesn't make enough, which I find bizarre. And
she doesn't make enough.
That's
yeah,
happened to a couple of my clients. If
okay,
you don't have
that's I
some
thought that was
income,
bizarre. And then
no.
she's on in order to apply to be eligible for Medicaid, she makes too much because they count for children's disability
Oh,
stuff,
right.
whereas the Affordable Care Act does not count them. So
Hmm.
that's where she's stuck, and I just don't know what to tell her. I told her, I said, to go back to Medicaid again and ask, because it just seems odd that she's got 2 children under the age of 18, and she's being told that 24,000 a year keeps her. I think she said she make like 23 something in order to qualify for Medicaid,
Hmm.
which I find just bizarre. But
It is a big void. I mean, some of the apparent options are, if somebody has short-term, long-term disability, they can get on their spouse's insurance, but this individual doesn't have any of that. The only thing that I can think of in that situation is to get a working relationship with a clinic, right,
right.
on a need-based sliding scale, and work out something that you can just do the best you can to maintain
Are
health
you guys
until
aware of
Medicare kicks in.
there's a
I have,
plan, it's like a Christian network kind of thing. We have
there
friends
are,
that are on it, and they live in Hawaii. I mean, you have to meet a lot of guidelines. Like you can't drink, smoke, blah, blah, blah. But I can't for the life of me think what it's called. I'll have to ask Tina, I
It's
guess.
not Catholic Charities because you can drink or
No.
smoke. I know that, and
there is a program.
they do have treatment options.
There
Yeah.
is a program that you can find out if a hospital is called a Hill Burton facility. It's called Hill Burton. And what that is they got federal money to build their hospital, And in exchange for that, they have to agree to provide low or no income people with
Mhm.
free medical care.
Oh, that's a good
Um,
tip.
so
Okay.
that's one thing. The other thing is that I always advise people to contact their legal aid office on Medicaid denials or issues because they specialize in public benefits.
Okay. That's
And
a good idea. That's a good idea.
that's one thing. Even when I do the Center for Independent Living, I always say, tell them if you can't find it, also ask them for your local legal aid
Mhm.
office.
That's
Mm-hmm.
good. Okay.
Those are really good tips. I like the legal
Mhm.
aid one. I hadn't thought of that.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know that you could appeal the Medicaid decision. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can appeal all those, and legal aid does those types of cases. So
All right. Good. Any
that's what I
others?
did for 28 years. I was a
Yeah.
public benefit paralegal, which included Medicaid and medical assistance and food stamps and Social Security and all of that.
So, as far as getting a decision turned over by legal aid, do you have a sense for like what the success rate was?
No, I don't, but it's
What do you have to do to prove that? I mean, what can help you get it turned over?
they didn't look at the income correctly. They didn't look at the composition. They aren't following the regulations or the
Okay.
rules.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Um, you know,
Yeah,
each,
it might be worth her to go and look then because she's so close that
well,
Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes if it's a nice, I mean, you've got, like you do with Social Security, you've got eligibility specialists that think every dollar comes out of their pocket personally and aren't willing to
well,
help. But you have those that will say, hey, look, if you stop getting this income of $50, in exchange for that, you'll qualify for this program.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
okay.
those types of things.
So
Okay.
that's interesting because we recently had a situation where somebody was getting child support money, like short money, like
Mm-hmm.
$200, not short money, and that $200 was preventing from getting into the extra help in Medicaid with
Mm-hmm.
some really intense medications. So it made sense to stop getting that.
Well, and she's married to a Canadian
Uh-huh.
national, so I mean, not that it's his fault. It's just there's other legal things that are going on with that too.
Mm-hmm.
So legal
There
aid
is
would probably be somebody she needs to go to.
Yeah, and there is one thing with that too, is that you have to be careful with Medicaid because there's a specific rule that you can't give away resources for the
Mm-hmm.
purposes of becoming eligible for
Right.
Medicaid.
So
Because you could,
is it an easy switch from going from Medicaid to Medicare when because she's not eligible until the end of next year or beginning of 2022?
When you say easy, what do you mean by easy?
Do you just flip from one system to another, from Medicaid to Medicare, or do you,
Yeah. Well,
it's
actually,
you
all
can
different?
actually get both.
you get both. Yeah. So
Okay.
they, being dual eligible has, a lot of advantages. So you
Right.
just keep your Medicaid and you can use Medicare for the extra benefits.
Hey.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of people that are on both right now. That
mhm.
seems to be the trend.
And they have access to the best plans. For
Mm-hmm.
example, like a typical market, like use Austin, Texas, like where Philip is.
Mm-hmm.
There may be 40 traditional plans there, but for those that are dual eligible, there may be an extra 8 to 10 plans just for those that are dual
Oh,
eligible. And not only those that are dual eligible, like you could put a shout out to your group and say, how many of you have diabetes, right? And because there's typically a specific plan
yeah.
for
Mm-hmm.
diabetes that's better than the regular plan. So often a tangent a little bit, but